2, 1. We're rolling.
Welcome to Dawn Talk, everybody. We have Zack Sampson. I'm Kemper Woodruff, and our host or our guest tonight is Brian Shipman, Captain Brian Shipman, and he joined the Old Salt Coffee Company in June of 2020. He is a 30-year Navy veteran, and Brian's infectious enthusiasm for naval history and the seagoing profession is reflected in Old Salt Coffee's strategic messaging, where his recounts of historic naval events have sparked a large and rapidly expanding online community of sailors, veterans, and coffee lovers from all walks of life who share their sea stories with one another. And over his 30-year naval career, Brian served 15 years at sea in a variety of ships from aircraft carriers to cruisers and destroyers. He commanded the destroyer USS Decatur DDG 73 and later Destroyer Squadron 21. Ashore, he established and led a high-end tactical training command for shipboard officers similar to aviation's Top Gun, all of which required extensive consumption of coffee along the way. And after retiring from the Navy, Brian became an Oregon personal service worker and is the primary caregiver for his daughter. Couldn't have written a better bio.
Hell of a resume.
That is immaculate. Everybody, welcome Brian Shipman. We have questions.
It's
Where
good,
did it all
good to
begin?
be here.
And where did it all begin, man? Your journey into the Navy. How did that happen?
First off, again, thanks for inviting me. I'm kind of new to the podcast game, so I've sat through enough Zoom meetings. It kind of feels like a Zoom meeting, so I guess we get used to this. I wanted to join the Navy as a kid. Way back in grade school, I kind of, just reading history. I loved reading about the World War II and the Pacific history. Kind of always wanted to be in the Navy, even as a kid.
Yeah.
Went through high school. I saw the recruiter, and I thought I was just going to enlist. I wanted to be a gas turbine mechanic. My father wanted me to go to college, and I had really had about enough of school, and I didn't really think they could afford to put me through school. And he's like, well, why don't you try for an ROTC scholarship? I'm like, okay, seems to make sense. So applied for it, got it, got accepted to Illinois.
Nice.
And yeah, Dad, I told him many times, Dad, I owe you a big one for that one. That was the right choice.
Good. Why was it the right choice?
Because I graduated high school. I was 17 years old. If I had gone straight to the Navy, I'd have been somebody's worst nightmare and probably wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
As a dumb, loudmouth kid, I'd have got myself into trouble.
Well,
I need to go to college, grow up a little bit, get some of it out of my system, and then be ready to go to work.
I definitely can say that I can relate. I was definitely and have always been a little bit of a loudmouth kid. And lately, I've just been trying to funnel it in the proper direction at the proper times. You know what I mean? Especially working where I work, which for everyone, we are gun-loving Oregonians here, and we just happened to cross paths. And I was like, Brian is just a cool dude, and I just got the chance to pick at his brain a little bit, and he was like, "Hey, man, I spent a lot of time around, the Navy, and I just my little eyeballs lit up. I was like, I have always been obsessed with stories, and specifically like combat and militaristic stuff. Because I watched like Mail Call when I was little, and all the like reenactments they had, shootout, and like all these different things, and it just blew me away. Even like Rambo as a kid, when you see that, you're like, what? It changes the game for you. So thank you for being here to kind of walk us through how uh, one can have such an extensive career, and then transition to literally being an artist with your coffee.
Um, the stories. I like to joke. Some people join, because they want to serve their country, and some people, want the VA benefit and some other things. The real reason you join is for the stories you get, the people you meet along the way, the places you go to. The stories are always incredible. I I've been to a lot of countries, saw lots of different things. Got a story for about any occasion. So that was when my friend contacted me about this coffee company thing. Jumping around on the timeline, the guy who started the company, he and I were commanding officers of ships together. We deployed with a carrier strike group together back in 2008, and I first met him. The answer to this, I first met him in 1995 when we were young lieutenants at Monterey, California, going to postgraduate school, and we'd crossed paths. We'd never been on the same ship together, but we knew each other by name. We knew people in common, bumped into each other along the way. Then lo and behold, here we are. He's got a frigate, I've got a destroyer, and we're deploying together, to the Western Pacific and the Persian Gulf. And that was an interesting summer. That was a fun summer. And I retired June 1st of 2019, and he retired actually, I think a year or two before I did. I forget his exact bailout timeline, but he'd already done one company startup, and he had a friend who was an entrepreneur, and he pitched this idea. He's like, I want to start a coffee company and make it Navy themed. Here's my ideas. And out of the blue, one day, it was May of 20. A text from him. He's like, here's what I'm doing. I've seen your posts on Facebook, some of the history stuff you write. You want to write some stories? Your heck, why not? I get some free coffee, maybe some swag. I can do this. Next thing I know, he's cut me in as a part owner, and we went live. Our first official live day of business was October 25th of 2020.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I've been at it since the beginning.
Nice, man. Ain't nothing better than that, because then you got the whole origin story, and it's so cool that you guys go so far back. Now, this is just the hippie in me. Do you believe in like destiny, or any like bigger plans or universal thing, or do you believe in God, or?
I do believe in God. I believe He has a plan, and I have no idea what it is.
Yeah. Because like when you see events like this and you can look at it in retrospect from where you are now, you're like, huh, how near we were, you know? And it was just all just this like dance of life, I guess,
Things circle around. My best friend from my first ship 30 years ago, I was up at Bremerton on my first ship. My best friend from there, he lives 3 or 4 miles down the road from me here over in Gresham. Nice to reconnect with him. I mean, we stayed in touch over the years, but it's really nice to be able to go see him on a routine basis. And a couple of the guys that worked for me when I had command at Decatur, one of them, he's over in Beaverton, works for one of the tech companies. I mean, I've never lived here, but I know half a dozen people here because I served with them.
Yeah, it really is like a family, a different family, and that's one of the cool things. When I listen to even like other podcasts, there's a dude that does one called Combat Story, and when you hear these people recount things, or like Jocko's podcast, like some of their like going back and just the bonding that happens there, it's unlike anything else. um, but it seems to always breed when people come out and they do stick together in companies like we're seeing in yourself, or Jocko's company with like Echo and everybody. You're starting to see this dedication of just passion and wanting for just the highest level of production. And so it's amazing to see what the military actually does for a lot of people.
There's a number of things on that. There's the shared circumstances, that you're in. I mean, it's amazing to see how some people who, if you could back the clock up and you pull those, those same two people never be in the never be in the Navy, but meet on the street, they never talk to one another because they have nothing in common.
Yeah.
But you put them in, you put them in a big steel box, within 500 feet of one another for 6 months at a time. As you're deployed, you have shared events, you have shared memories together, and that bond that gets formed, because it's difficult. I mean, going to sea is tough. A lot of stress being in the service, even if you're not in combat. It's a stressful thing, and just those shared things really do form the bond. It's interesting to see how quickly after maybe you served with someone 10 years ago, you bump into them. You pick up like mid sentence where you left off.
Yeah.
It's kind of a strange thing that way.
Yeah. Would you ever consider yourself, like, at a certain point to be an old salt?
Oh yeah, I'm the old salt.
Hi, Grandma. That's my grandma, everybody. We're at Grandma's house.
How's your grandfather doing?
He's doing all right. They were able to get a stint in and to break up some stuff. Thank God. That was one of the reasons why I had to ask if you believe in God, because I've just had a very interesting day. My grandpa had a heart attack last night, but God came through for us. Everyone had been praying really, really hard, and we're just so thankful that it worked out that way.
Good.
So we're waiting by the phone to see how things transform overnight, and where he's at in the morning. But as of right now, he's doing good, and that's why I'm in such high spirits. Like getting in here, I'm like, yes, I have the opportunity. That the timing still worked out. Brian, you've been awesome, and it's so cool to have this platform that Zack really. This is the brainchild of him bringing this to the business. He's handled all the tech stuff. He's like Q, from James Bond. He's so with it. He's always coming out with a different idea and gizmo and gadget to just take it to the next level. And it's beautiful when you see that. And it's cool that when you came in and you gave me the coffee, he did it real slick. He gave it to me in like an indescript bag. And then I pulled the coffee out and I was like, what? This packaging was like bling bling. It was like he put 2 gold bricks in a bag and then just came. When I got to my house and I looked at him, I was like, now that is an established brand. I don't have them on me, but I'm telling you that brown shoe, it tastes delicious. The brown shoe blend, and it pops the bag. Like when you see it if you see it on a shelf, it's gonna be bling bling. But right now we're doing it online, right?
Yes, we don't have any brick and mortar places. We are completely online.
Cool.
Beans come from Colombia. For one of our blends, we get a couple of beans from Africa on the blend, but for the most part, it's all Colombian beans. They our roaster is in Southern California, and it's shipped straight from our roaster out to the delivery address.
Nice. Yeah, it tastes delicious for sure. The Green Eyes is their dark blend. I want to make sure that we take the time to promote and tip our hat to the products too, because that really helped bring us together in this as well. And I think, man, it reminds me of my grandma's demi test stuff because my other grandma's Italian, and when we would go back, we would drink it with sambuca, and it was just so good. But this is like perfect for in the morning, or if you have that afternoon cup and then you need to get over the hump, the Green Eyes will get you there. I'm telling you.
There's we've got the quick rundown. Right now we're at 4+1 blends.
Okay.
Brown shoe blend, and if you're in the Navy of the parlance, brown shoes refer to aviators. Our khaki uniforms, most people wear. Well, it used to be they change rules often with uniforms, but everybody wore black shoes with their khaki uniform. Well, the aviators were authorized to use brown shoes, so we're to wear brown shoes, and they did that to show their pride in being aviators, which I get. We always gave them a hard time about it because that's what we do. We give each other a hard time, but that's where we came up with the name for that one, brown shoe blend.
Okay.
On the front of that, It's if you saw on the logo, there's an airplane on there. It's a World War II F4 aircraft, F4 Wildcat, and there was a famous pilot, Jimmy Thatch, who came up with what was called the Thatch Weave. It was a tactic for engaging with Japanese fighter planes.
Hmm.
He very highly decorated in World War II. Well, eventually, some years later, there was a ship named for him, and my friend was the commanding officer of that ship.
Whoa.
That's
Whoa,
all
that's
that
pretty
ties
awesome.
in. Jimmy Thatch, the airplane, brown shoe blend, and that is a medium roast, which I still think is pretty dark for a medium roast, but it's yummy. The flavors that flavor that the roaster has put in there is really just a very tasty,
Yeah.
very tasty blend.
There's layers to it. Like I have mine with just a little bit of half and half in there. I'm not a straight black coffee drinker. I'm not that manly. I can't say it. You guys eat this low hanging fruit, get it? But yo, I'm telling you, it tastes just like a latte. Just boom. If you're not a Starbuckser, but you want that quality, and that's gonna even just blow that beyond it, it's you guys are just killing it. It's awesome.
Then our next one up, Haze Gray. That's a tribute to Surface Navy because the ships are painted haze gray.
Okay.
Haze Gray's a medium dark roast. That's actually our highest caffeine roast. There's a separate packaging because we are the official coffee of a couple of different memorials. USS Missouri, the battleship out in the surrender was signed on. It's now a memorial out in Hawaii, and they sell our coffee exclusively in their gift shop.
Awesome.
And we partner with them. They're a nonprofit organization. There's a code when you buy online. If you put in, I think it's Big Mo 10. We donate part of the profits to their preservation.
Heck yeah. We'll make sure that we put that in the bio. We'll have to.
And that one is called Battleship Blend, and it's really haze gray with a different package. It's the same coffee. We made packaging specifically for battleships because we've also partnered with USS New Jersey, and I think we may get one or two more this year.
Nice. Hey man. Well, I gotta give it up for that.
That's awesome.
But
Zack,
the last one to discuss, we've got another dark roast, Silent Service, and that's probably our best seller and seems to be the most popular. It's kind of the equivalent of a French roast.
okay.
It isn't quite as dark as Green Eyes, but it's a dark black coffee, and that's really good. And Silent Service is about submarines, so
Okay. Very cool. Zack,
that's where we came up with our names at.
that's awesome. I love that they all have their own stories, and the stories are on the bag too. We're gonna ask you about writing in a second, but Zack, did you have any feedback on the coffee?
I really enjoyed it. I usually add like a little bit of like hot chocolate mix to my coffee.
Okay.
And it makes it like a mocha. And
Hmm.
this was probably one of the best coffees that I've actually been able to make it taste exactly like a mocha. I used the dark roast that you had given me, Kemper. I can't
Yeah.
remember the name of it, but that was like perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, it's phenomenal.
Well, awesome. So I'm curious, where did you first start writing?
Um,
Was that something from the Navy, or was that something that you came with as a younger person?
I for writing like the type of writing like do for the back of the bags or for the stories, the Navy stories, I picked that up along the way while I was in the Navy. I mean, obviously going through college, I had classes where I had to, do some writing, but I guess it would be more like business and technical writing. But for like the history stories, it just as I got more into it in the career, just some of the stories that I came up with, I like to put in pen to paper, and then on a thing like Facebook, once that came out, there'd be have something to put on my page, write about D-Day, write about the Battle of Midway, write about the Battle of Coral Sea when it went on, and that's where my friend noticed I was doing things like that. That's why he asked me to write for him. Probably the first times that I started doing that though was about 10 years into my career. When I'd get up and talk with my department, if it was one of those, happened to be around the time that there was a famous part of, or a famous date in Navy history, I'd try to,
Mhm.
I don't have to get there and talk business the whole time, but say, hey, today is the 50th anniversary of, this battle, and, try to generate some interest and some brotherhood type stuff. The whole family thing of it. It's more than just signing your name on the dotted line and slugging it out for 4 years. It's there's a lot of important people that came before you, and quite frankly, they're not a whole lot different than you are. Um,
Mm.
they were people that got put in special situations and through. And when you're out there, you never know when it's your turn.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of the that's kind of one of the things I always tried to get across. That you hear some of the big names like Admiral Nimitz and Admiral Halsey and things like that. A lot of those guys were normal guys that you would have met on the street, but they just got put in certain circumstances and they came through. There's
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of names that no one has heard of, but some of the historians over the last 10 or 15 years have brought their stories out that are incredible. Young 19-year-old men in combat. I know there's a lot more stories now, obviously coming out of like Desert Storm and
Yeah.
Iraq and Afghanistan. But there's a lot of stories that kind of build that body of history of what you're serving in.
Yeah. You literally just gave like the best answer in the world. That was immaculate, for real. So, yeah, it's definitely fascinating, but it's something you can only truly understand, I guess, from the inside out. And I guess, sorry, you look like you were ready to say something.
Um, it triggered a memory there. We had a real trouble in the late '90s of keeping people. We were having people a lot of people were getting out of the Navy and not staying in for a career, and some of our very best people were getting out because one, the economy was cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is pre 9/11. I hope you're old enough to know the reference of 9/11.
Yeah.
That was quite a day.
Yeah.
Um, there was a lot of people getting out. I mean, the dot-com boom and industry was taking off, and the Navy couldn't afford to pay what Microsoft or Apple was paying. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you keep somebody in? How do you keep someone how do you keep somebody who's a hell of a technical engineer who can go out and make twice what the Navy can afford to pay them? How do you keep them in? To go on 6-month deployments away from their families and live in a cramped space with 75 of their closest strangers, for 6 months at a time on deployment.
Yeah.
That's a big ask.
Mm-hmm.
And what I always thought was, you join, somebody enlists because they either need the money, the education, or the training. We were giving them training, we were giving them education, and then they would go to where they'd get more money. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can make it more than just a job, if you can make it a calling and a profession and something that you knowingly, hey, I'm not going to go out and be the next Bill Gates in terms of money. This is what I want to do. I enjoy it. I like it. I like the people I work with. It's my place and I want to be here. My goal is to try to dig up on something like that. And if you can come up with that story where,
Mm.
GM2 car on USS Samuel B. Roberts, that's an incredible story. I dare you to Google that one
Zack, get on it.
up.
But yeah, man. Good night, Grandma. Love you.
Sweetheart. Sleep well. I made you a nice warm bed.
Thank you, Grandma. Ain't nothing like Grandma's house. But sorry, guys. Thank you. Um, are there any things that you think we need to do for veterans once they get home that should be a mandatory? Like every things that if you were to design the system, how would you design it?
um, one of one of the things that I kind of rubs me the wrong way in today's society. It seems like a lot of times veterans are either portrayed as broken toys, or they're all coming back with problems, and they're ticking time bombs, and that is just not the case. Yes, there are people with definitely documented PTSD. Yes, there's people with some behavioral issues, but for the most part, there's people that are ready to go back into society.
Hmm.
They're ready to go be part of the population again, and they've got a lot to bring in terms of, what is it, that 75% of life is just showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the things that the military helps you with. You get to places on time. People actually
Yeah.
show up, and they show up on time.
Punctuality.
One of the problems we have with those, if you've been there very long, you talk in acronyms, and you
You're
we
concise.
understand it, and you say something, and there'll be this awkward pause because nobody knows what the heck you just said. Um, if you know someone's a veteran, ask them
Hmm.
about their stories. Ask them about their stories. There's a lot of, and some of them are just funny stories, but other times there's a lot of life lessons to be
Yeah.
learned in there from what they've seen and what they've experienced.
Yeah. And I think also, we need to provide for the people that need it. But if you're someone that's in the position to just get out and straight thrive, which there are a lot of veterans that are, and they deserve to have even, like, I'm not gonna say even more, but just the same amount of amenities, and we should actually consider it amenities. Like, you should get something for that service a little bit more than what they're getting. I guess that's why when I was asking that question, like, if you
We
were to
we
design.
act, we get there's actually a pretty generous benefits package after the fact. I mean, the GI Bill is a really good deal.
Yeah.
Doing your you just a simple 4-year enlistment, and you got 3+ years of college paid for you. Well, man, that's a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you earn it, but I mean, it's that's maybe why you didn't make as much as your buddy did when as you were in the service. But the there's another one that bothers me when they talk about raises, pay raises for the military.
Hmm.
That's always, you don't want to seem greedy. There's a lot of other things that if you don't see the money in hand, you don't really appreciate. But again, sh- short story for you. When my daughter was born in Monterey,
Mm-hmm.
this was in '96. Um, she had to be ambulanced immediately to Stanford to neonatal ICU.
Oh
She
no.
had a bad heart. Um, Even back then, 1996, 4.5 days at the ICU came to about $60,000,
Wow.
Whoa.
and that was, I don't even know if I was
Yeah.
making 60,000 before taxes, at that point. And Navy Medical picked that bill up.
Whoa.
Um, think of, that was ancient history. I mean, that was 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what those costs would be now. So, maybe that monthly paycheck from Uncle Sam may not see that big, but when you've got a big issue like that comes up,
Mm.
the Navy medical coverage, that was another reason I stayed in. I mean, my family was provided for in terms of medical care, and that was a decision to stay as long as I did.
Heck yeah. It seems like some people get in and it just clicks. They're like, man, I've had so much fun. Like, I had a dude the other day when he came in. He said to me, "Man, if you knew how much fun I had when I was in the military, all the great people and everything," he was like, "You wouldn't even thank me." He was like, "I don't even need it." He was like, I had so much fun, man." And it was just an awesome experience to have that interaction. Because actually, what I did for a long time, I worked in a medical marijuana dispensary, and
Mhm.
I was helping a lot of kids with autoimmune disorders and vets and old people. And so you would really have to, like, get to know a person and what's bothering them and how to address it. And a lot of those dudes, were the opposite side of that spectrum, you know?
Yeah.
And they were needing a band-aid for their spirit. And when they came in over time, they would call us bud tenders. And you really became like that almost the way that they would share things with me over time. And so I guess I've always kind of been just with my ear to the wall trying to get any little story that I could. And you've really enlightened me on a lot of stuff tonight. So really,
Well,
thank
so
you.
something simple like that. That's in what you just described. What you were doing there as a
Mhm.
bud tender. Um, that's a lot of what leadership is in the military. Not all of it, but that's a very big part of it.
Mm,
You know, people are looking for someone. You know, especially people who are inclined to go into military service are looking for leadership. They're looking for someone to follow, to inspire them, someone who cares about them.
yeah.
And um, my I, I wasn't doing this as a career.
Mhm.
I went to my first ship. It was not a ship I wanted, not in a place I wanted, but quite frankly, I'd finished last in my class at ROTC.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't get what you wanted when you finished last in your class. You got sent to a nuke carrier in Bremerton. Um,
Mm,
and my first couple of years on there were not. I mean, I wasn't being beaten. I wasn't being
yeah.
persecuted. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't wait till I got out. I'm like, well, I gave it a shot. I'm ready to go do something else.
Hmm.
And then we got a different captain.
Mm.
I'm just a young officer. I mean, I'm only what 23, 24 at the time. But one of my jobs on there was actually being up on the bridge and driving the ship.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
I,
that's gonna be cool.
yeah, I'm trying not to make it a humble brag too much. I can send you the picture. I have drifted an aircraft carrier.
What?
What? That sounds
Yes,
dope.
I have drifted an aircraft carrier.
That is
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah, we're
I'll
gonna need
send
a
you the
picture.
picture. It was pretty cool. It doesn't matter if you're on a bicycle, a motorcycle, a destroyer. Going fast is fun,
Yeah.
and carriers are fast.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Going fast is fun. But anyway, we got a new captain on board, and he and I clicked.
Mhm.
And I kind of saw, hey, maybe this Navy thing so bad. I
Hmm.
got through that tour, and I got rewarded with a brand new cruiser out of Hawaii.
Woo!
Oh yeah.
That did not suck.
Gotta
Um,
love Hawaii.
my son was born there at Tripler Army Medical Center.
Mm.
Um, Tow-headed, blonde-haired kid who used to say, "Yeah, I'm Hawaiian." You're not Hawaiian. Yeah, yeah. He was born on the island,
That's
and that
awesome.
was a great ship and a great crew, and that was really where it kind of clicked. That you gotta stick around this. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
stick around a little
maybe
longer.
it ain't so bad.
And the next thing you know, it's 15 years, it's 20 years, and it's funny how things work out. It was when I walked out of college in 1989, if somebody said, "Yeah, you'll serve 30 years," I'd have laughed at him.
Yeah.
I'd have laughed at him.
You know, it's funny how we stumble into things. Like in my world where I kind of developed that was a lot of childhood stuff. Like I always wanted someone to feel seen. You know, I never wanted anyone to feel unseen. Like I understood the value of that. And strangely enough, the older I got introduced into yoga from a chick that came into the dispensary. Her name's Saraswati Hewitt, and she is amazing. Bro, when I have the time, I'm gonna have to like send you to a class or something. She changed my whole life for the better. And namaste is like the light in me acknowledges the light in you. Um, and so for me, that's kind of how it was like a hodgepodge of stuff, you know? And all I had was like these goofy memories of things not working out the way that I really wanted them to most of the time, but um, in the way that was fun and enjoyable because I had like grace and friendship along the way. And it's brought me to this point where I feel like I'm just now hitting the ground, just running in my life. with starting this podcast. And it's really cool having people that no matter where they are in their life, they may be years ahead of you. You're just still hitting the ground running, just like young as you ever were. You know what I mean? With enthusiasm on that.
I'm definitely not as young as I always was, but I'd like to think I'm young for my age. We all like to think that at this age.
Yeah. Well, just enthusiasm for what you do, you know? Because I know it's a lot to juggle things and wear multiple hats, but there's a grace for it. I swear, it's like, and I can't, you just do it. It just comes to you. And as long as you can catch a rhythm and understand that there's a ebb and flow to it all.
You gotta roll with what you know. The things I had a few curveballs the last couple of years, but you roll with them and
Mm-hmm.
you keep focused on what's really important and try not to let the other stuff get at you too much. And yeah, there's lots of things I like getting back into now. I do a lot. I love to cook. Got back into that quite a bit. Make some good stuff around the house.
Nice. Are you
I
smoking things or what are you
myself
doing?
more about mixed drinks.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Salute, brother. Salute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, I actually had a chance to sit down with my dad and have a beer for the first time in a while tonight while I was having some pizza. That was pretty cool, you know? Just,
This
everything.
glass, this actual glass is the glass I used when my son bought me the first beer after he turned 21.
Oh,
Oh, that's
that's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, San Diego Brewing Company down there near the 8 and 15 interchange by the old stadium.
That's
That's
awesome,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, he took me out right after he turned 21. He said, "Dad, I'm buying you a beer." I'm like, "I'm not arguing."
I won't say no to a free
I
beer.
taught you well.
That's awesome.
Zach, you ever go and have a beer with your dad in town?
I've never like sat down and had a beer. We're not like a big drinking family.
Yeah.
But when I did turn 21, me, my mom, my dad, and my sister, we went to a small bar here in Cascade Locks, and we
Mm-hmm.
we had like a couple drinks. I had like 2 AMFs that night, which was
Woo.
yeah. I tried playing pool, didn't do a very good job. So
So if you don't drink and you just go straight to two MFs, like I
yeah.
tip my hat. Nice.
So I was trying to play pool, and I was getting so frustrated at how bad I was doing because I'm usually pretty decent at it, but I was like not making anything, and it was frustrating. So
Hey, what are some things that the captain does for fun around the ship? Because I know I would be having so much fun. I think I'm too childish. I'd be having so much fun. You see a Naval Destroyer Squadron, dude. I feel like I'm from Star Wars just saying that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've always, while I was there and since it was over, I told anyone who'd listen that being in command of the ship was the best 20 months of my life. It was
Mm-hmm.
incredible. I had a lot of luck in that I had a good boss to work for. I had two different bosses. Both of them were just great bosses to work for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a great crew. I mean, of course, there's a few malcontents, and you put 275 people in one
Yeah.
place, and there's going to be problems. But for the most part, people wanted to work. People worked hard. The ship just did really, really well. It was a great time. What I like doing for fun, walking
Mm-hmm.
around the ship,
Yeah.
which made a lot of people nervous.
Just
yeah.
looking.
Any time, day or night, I'd go for a walk around the ship. Middle of the night, I wake up I'd wake up in my bed, couldn't go back to sleep. I just go for a walk around the ship, see what's going on, what's really going on out here. You got to be ready for what you see,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because people aren't expecting the captain to walk into their workspace at 1:30 in the morning.
What?
Scares the shit out of them, but see
Yeah.
what's going on, and find out what they do. Again, here's
Mhm.
19-year-old sailor welding up there. I forget what they're doing some welding on a repair job down in the general workshop at
Mhm.
1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I walk in there and, he's startled. He thinks he's in trouble. He thinks he's doing something wrong. I'm like, no, just what are we working on? He described it. They were, repairing a bracing place for hanging tools down in one of the engine rooms.
Mhm.
It's great. What rod are you using? He was like, I'm like, yeah, what rod are you using? He's like, I'm using, 7014. I'm like, yeah, I used to use that back on, I did some welding back then. You have some things, and from right there, that young man knew that the captain one knew his name and actually gave a shit about what he was doing. Um,
Mhm.
Little things like that can go a long way to making the ship a better place.
Nice.
Being seen.
Always tried to keep that in mind. Now, if somebody needs an ass chewing, they get it. Although I'm not real good at it, I didn't do that very often. I tried to not lose my temper, but again,
Yeah.
if you show someone that what you care about them and what you think they are doing is important, you're going to do a good job. Nobody shows up in the morning and says, I'm going to screw up today.
Yeah. Are there any other, like, leadership lessons that you learned, along the way and, like, from the military in particular that
Yeah,
translated into
there are lots, and people write books on this stuff. I don't always understand the books that they're writing,
Yeah.
but there's lots of leadership things along the way. I mean, there's little slogans. You've got to be good at reading people. I was never great at reading people.
Mhm.
Tried to understand what they meant, not just what they said.
Mm.
Yeah, see what they're really communicating to you, what they're really trying to tell you. That's help them say what they're trying to tell you.
Mm.
'Cause if there's confusion, I think the first report is generally wrong. Wait for the second report to come in.
I like that one.
The first report is we see. Well, I mean, you see it on the news all the time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Oh, we have to print a retraction on that. Ah, okay.
gotcha.
I
Yeah.
like
Spoke too
that one. I'm
soon.
taking that one to the bank for real.
First
You just
report is generally wrong. Give it a little time. That was one of the things. If it's like, I mean, this isn't just for being a captain of a ship, but this is any leadership lesson. If you have to make a decision,
Mhm.
one of the things you don't think about is when do you have to make it. You have to make it right now.
Mm.
If you don't have to make a decision right at this moment, don't. Even if you think you know what the answer to the question is, wait a little bit. Gather some more info, maybe get someone else's opinion. Don't make a decision too early, because
Mm.
if there's no rush, don't rush and make the wrong decision or the least not a suboptimal decision. Get some more inputs, get some more people's thoughts, collect your own, do your own homework, make a better decision later on. And
Mm.
if you got people working for you, um, even if you think of course you're the captain, you have all the answers because you're the captain. Even if you think you know that answer, don't do it without getting inputs from someone else, because now your folks are part of the system. Realize, hey,
Mm.
the captain cares what I think. He wants my input on making a decision. Because if you just
Mm.
make the decisions, they're happy to let you make all the decisions, and then when things go wrong, yeah, the captain's a screw up. Ah, that's not really it.
Mm.
You want to get people, the people who work for you, you want to get them involved, that they're part of the system. Hey, the boss needs my input so that he can make the best decision. That's a big deal. Gives
That
That
people
is
value.
that reminds me of
incredible.
I was watching Jocko Willink's podcast at one point, and they were reviewing this book of military tragedies and
Mm.
failures, and
Hmm.
they had gone into the whole realm of like, hey, if some of these commanders and leaders would listen to the lower ranking people below them that are suggesting these different moves, they might be able to actually be a little bit more successful, and that just kind of reminded me of that.
That is
Mm.
exactly right. That is a common that's a common theme that you see when you look at failures, either ship collisions or some sort. It's not limited to the military. You'll find they may not be documented as well out in the civilian world, but the know-it-alls who don't want to hear any dissenting opinions, and they don't you know I'm in charge, I make the decisions, you all just go do them. And people they're not going to back you up.
Yeah.
Involve people and they'll back you up. Treat them with respect, and you're going to do better because somebody out there knows more than you do, even if you're the captain.
Yeah.
So use other people's experiences, and that's and then there are times maybe there is a decision that has to be made right now. No kidding. We've got to turn the ship. We've got to do this, whatever it is. But if you have involved people with other decisions, they are much more likely. They get it. Okay, there's no time. We trust the captain. We know his thought process. You get better results that way. At least that's what I saw.
Okay, so then they know, hey, now is right now.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Urgent.
Yeah.
we're smooth sailing this one. We're gonna let it ride out. See, that's really cool because, and I think this is why young men and just young people in general need to talk to the older generations, because there's so much wisdom in what you're saying that could help, especially young people that are impulsive or that don't have the structure of the military, like having that knowledge and that wisdom, that little pearl, that you might have got from being in such a position where you had to have such reverence for every decision that you make, that we can take that and give that and provide that for people. So that's really cool.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to ask you is so we talked a little bit about your early life in the Navy, but I wanted to ask you what the first ship you actually got to captain was, and what that ship's specific role is within like a fleet.
Gotcha. The ship I commanded, USS DECATUR.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guided missile destroyer. It is does a lot of everything. They're Arleigh Burke class destroyers. They're amazing. They're the backbone of the Navy right now. We've got, I know this answer. We have almost 70 of them.
Oh wow.
They're a little different. I mean, Arleigh Burke is now almost 30 years old, so we've been building them for 30 years, and there's updated systems and stuff in it. But anyway, Decatur does a lot of things. You've got Tomahawk land attack missiles. You've got surface to air defense missiles. You've got sonars for detecting, tracking submarines. It doesn't have an embarked helicopter, but it doesn't have a hangar. It's got a flight deck on the back of it, or back on the fantail. You can land a helicopter, work with it to have the helicopter gives you a lot more capabilities for search on the surface and dipping sonars and things like that for hunting submarines. You've got a deck gun for surface gunnery, and then at the time, Decatur had a unique capability of ballistic missile defense. We could actually knock down things outside the atmosphere.
What?
Oh wow, that's sick.
That's fielded on a lot of ships now, but at the time, Decatur was one of the few that had it.
Wow.
It does a lot of missions. A lot of times you might be around the aircraft carrier providing air defense umbrella around it, a missile defense umbrella. Other times you might be out hunting pirates.
Wow.
One of the I was alone and unafraid looking for submarines in the South China Sea that summer. That was pretty interesting.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, we had that has a long towed array sonar that's very good at finding submarines, and
Okay.
so it was just me alone and unafraid out there. No other ships around me, just me and my crew looking for submarines.
Wow.
Dude, that is so cool on so many levels. I was trying to hold it in. I'm like, ooh, on the inside.
Well, there was a lot of days of boredom. I mean, because you're just looking, you're looking at an empty ocean for days and days at a time. That's not real thrilling, but we do things to break it up. Sunday mornings, given that we didn't, get called to do some other thing, I made it very clear to the crew that Sundays was, obviously, people still have essential functions. Somebody's got to keep the engines running. people still have to cook, but rather than, I didn't want people out, chipping and painting. We weren't having a bunch of meetings. We weren't having a bunch of training. Sunday was kind of a day off. If you're not standing watch, you want to go sleep, you sleep. You want to,
Nice.
write letters home, write letters home. You need to, whatever it is, rest and recover on a Sunday. And then at lunchtime, we call them Steel Beach Picnic. I mean, we had big grills on board. We'd have, grilled burgers and dogs. And we
Yeah.
had a collapsible basketball hoop that we'd put up on the flight deck and play some basketball.
Okay.
man.
How many basketballs did you guys go
I was
through?
just about to ask that.
I think we went through over 75 of them. I mean, once they go over the side, you don't turn around, go pick them up. It's like,
Yeah.
we'll come get you. But flight deck basketball,
awesome.
just things, to break up the monotony of being out there, and the crew really appreciated that. Those were good days.
Yeah, you got to build that morale.
And I was lucky. I had a one of the chiefs that worked for me was actually a certified boxing referee.
Oh, what?
Back in the day, boxing was a real thing on Navy ships. It was called smokers back then, and boxing was a big deal. I don't know if you surfed our Facebook page, but you remember the guy that used to do the Tonight Show, Johnny Carson?
Yeah.
Johnny Carson was in the Navy around World War II. He was actually a prolific boxer on his ship. Little history. Yeah, I write this stuff. So my chief approaches me and says, "Hey, Captain, we want to do smokers." I don't know of anybody in the Navy who has done this for years, because a lot of people are worried about negative publicity, somebody getting hurt. So I'm kind of listening to him. I'm like, okay, how are we going to do it? And he laid it all out. He's like, Captain, I'm a certified ref, down here at Chula Vista. Chief Jones here with me. He's not certified, but he referees with me on the weekends. And they laid it all out on how they would do this. And it was great. They couldn't be grudge matches. If there were two people that didn't get along, they couldn't do boxing. And then, the 98-pound weakling couldn't box the 215-pound former Marine.
Yeah.
They had to be similar weight, no grudge matches. And what was really funny, because this was all about raising money for our morale, welfare, and rec.
Okay.
They found these pairs of people, and we had like 8 sets of 8 pairs of people who wanted to box, but you needed to narrow it down to a 3-pair card.
Okay.
So they would get on the ship's TV a week prior at dinner and talk trash at one another about
like a press conference. That's awesome.
Oh my gosh, it was hysterical. And to vote, you gave $1 a vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
You wanted to see Smith and Jones box, you went down to the thing and you handed $1 or how much money, and all that money went to the ship's morale and rec fund to fund things when we go ashore.
That's awesome.
Some of the trash talking was just hysterical. Oh gosh. I'm trying to be an adult, but I'm laughing so hard at some of the things that got said. And then the bottom line, we had all the crew out there on the fantail, and they talked it up, and the judges were me, the captain, my second in command, and then my senior enlisted guy. They had walk-up music for us when they announced. Yeah, it got to be a real production. The boxing matches were all the same. First round, people come out, fists of fury for 20 seconds, and then it's like, we're tired. And they just hang on each other the rest of the time.
That's funny. That's great.
They realized that, hey, this is pretty hard work. It was good. Nobody got hurt. Everybody had a good time. We got to do that twice on that deployment, and that was a crew favorite.
That's awesome.
I remember hitting pads with Kemper in his garage for like 5 minutes, and I was just completely I was sweating, and his garage was cold, so I don't know how I was sweating, but it was hard stuff. I was like, how is this so hard? I'm not even hitting that much.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
you got to go to Go Hard sometime and work out. There's a boxing gym out in Gresham, Go Hard MMA and Fitness, and B2T Boxing. They when I go out there sometimes, my friend Big Wes, he'll always make me do like around the worlds and stuff where you're like hitting multiple bags or just circuit work. And dude, that'll put a workout on you, man, real quick. 9 minutes is all you need of that, like back, back, and you're like,
Toasted.
please,
Yeah.
yeah.
Damn.
But I guess we're getting pretty close to about 9 o'clock. Is there anything that you would like to promote or touch on before we go? Any final messages or things about the company?
No, I've made the coffee pitch. We're
Gotcha.
obviously we've got goals for this coming, or actually it is this year. We need to get into the K cup world. We don't have K cup pods yet, and that is a function of expense and flavor.
Okay.
K cups are really expensive, and we're self funded. We don't have a bunch of sugar daddies. We're
Yeah.
self funded, so we can only do so much at a time. And our roaster has flat out told us he can't guarantee the coffee quality yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's working on it. When he thinks that he can get to a good, consistent product with the K cup that is as good as our bagged coffee, we will go there. And I
Okay.
think we'll get that done this year. I think we've got a number of things in the works for this year. I think. Well, we do. Yeah, we also recently released a Kona Blend, which is a light roast
Nice.
with Kona Coffee. Interesting to get that going. That's there's some expense involved with that, of getting the beans from Hawaii over to
Cali.
Southern California and getting the blend in there. But so that is our fifth one. That just went live last month. So that's new
Okay.
stuff.
Nice.
And yeah, we look to add more swag, more things. But yeah, old salt coffee.
Well, I
Like us
look
on
forward.
Facebook and read the stories. We're also on Instagram.
Okay. Sorry, I was talking over for you. Can you share your Instagram handle with us where we can find you?
Old Salt Coffee Co.
Okay. Boom.
Us.
Boom.
Well, thank you so much, man. I hope you have a great night. And I love you guys, man. Thank you. Thank you for being
Thanks for
here.
being on, Brian.
Hey, gentlemen, thanks a bunch for allowing me to be here. I really appreciate it.
Of course,
Anything we
anytime.
can do to help, and we have an open door for you. So in the future, as you come out with new stuff, don't be afraid to touch in.
Gotcha, I will do.
All right. Later.